Hey everybody, Sean McGinnis here at Comic-Con 2010. I'm joined alongside Brian Gerard, Community Director from Bungie, and Chad Armstrong, Multiplayer Designer. And as you can tell, these guys are here to show off Halo Reach. Guys, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having us. Yeah, thank you.
So Halo is always a big draw at Comic-Con. Everybody here seems to love the series, and you guys want to show them some love as well by revealing some new facets of the game, right?
Absolutely. We're going to be on the floor all day of the show. We have playable Reach back in the booth, and we're going to be revealing 2 new features of our game.
All right, let's check out some of those right now. Actually, you guys have some big news on the Firefight front, right?
Yeah, so just real quick to kind of catch up to where we are for people that haven't been following. Firefight is our cooperative game mode. It's really about you and your buddies, 4 people, shoulder to shoulder, fighting against wave after wave of Covenant enemies. And the point is just to have a lot of fun and get a high score, and it's kind of like an arcade mode for Halo. But we've made some big improvements since we revealed this mode last year in ODST. First of which, full support for matchmaking on Xbox Live now. So you'll be able to go into a playlist, and if none of your friends are online, we're going to help you find some people to play with, and you never got to play alone again. So that's pretty exciting. But we're also letting people take complete control over their own Firefight experience with a pretty insane amount of customization options. You know, in ODST, it was a random mix of enemies, but it was a pretty fixed experience. With Reach, it's wide open now, so you'll be able to define everything from how long your game goes, from infinite, like ODST, all the way down to maybe 1 round or a 10-minute timer. You can determine exactly what enemy types you'll fight with each wave of Firefight. I think there's probably, 25, 30 different subcategories of enemies that you'll be able to custom tailor. And then we also have skulls, which are game modifiers that will turn on progressively throughout your game. And rather than just take the skulls we've given you, we're going to let players create their own 3 custom skulls. And these skulls can actually have traits that apply to the players, like movement speed and jump height and damage. They can also apply to the enemies as well. So as you see here, Chad's moving through. If you want to make enemies that are really shooty, so I guess they're just really trigger happy, and guys that have better vision, better hearing, so they're going to be a lot more aggressive and engage you at a longer range. You can custom tailor all these skulls, add them into your own Firefight mix. And the cool part is you'll be able to save your own custom game, throw it up in your file share, and now the whole community will be able to play these different community-generated versions of Firefight. But the new mode that we're here to talk about today is a different experience. It's called Versus Mode. And this is historically a cooperative experience, but we're going to kind of flip it on its head. And this is going to basically put 2 players against 2 players in a round-based sort of score, see who can get the highest score. So the principle is 2 human-controlled Spartans squaring off against 2 human-controlled elites. Kind of think of it as the Spartans are on offense, right, and the elites are on defense. And the Spartans will start out with a fixed pool of lives and a time limit. And it's their job to get as many points as possible until their time expires or they run out of lives. And meanwhile, it's the elite's job to shut down the Spartans. So the elites have unlimited lives, and they're going to be going as hard as they can to try to kill the Spartan teams. And once that round expires, you'll flip sides and try and outscore the previous team's effort. So it's a pretty interesting twist on it, and of course, all the customization will apply to that as well. So we've been experimenting with some crazy variants, like a 1 versus 3 type of option. So that's a pretty exciting take on Firefight, and we're really happy to see what our fans are going to do once they get their hands on this in September.
All right, yeah, it sounds good. I mean, the sheer extent of the customization options in there is pretty impressive. Things like, vision, shootiness, all of that. It definitely looks like people are going to create some crazy Firefight variants. I'm looking forward to seeing what pops up on Xbox Live.
Absolutely. Chad will be able to look for these things through Xbox Live and through our website, and as these cool variants bubble up, we can find them, add them into matchmaking now, and suddenly the whole community starts to be able to create their own experiences and share them broadly.
Cool. So that's Firefight. You guys are also here to show off some new improvements to Forge, which was a big new feature that you guys introduced in Halo 3, and it kind of grew beyond your expectations of what it was originally created for, right?
Yeah, I mean, Chad was part of the original group that was thinking about Forge back in Halo 3.
Yeah, so when we looked at, after we had shipped Halo 3, what people were doing with Forge went way beyond our expectations. We had built Forge so that people could, change the layout on a map. And we added a couple pieces of DLC that just let them, actually build their own kind of maps. But, it was sort of, since Forge was simple, the process was simple, but people found ways to build complex maps. So we actually, we decided that with the new Forge, we wanted to make it so people could do that without all the hassle they had to go through in Halo 3.
So yeah, we introduced the map sandbox back with Halo 3, which kind of blew the lid off Forge. It gave people real building blocks to build real structures beyond just being able to change weapons and spawns. So the evolution of that is what Chad's showing us right now. We call this Forge World. This is our new sort of wide open, massive, expansive sandbox, if you will. It's an empty palette. It's a canvas for players to go in. There are how many different new unique objects?
About 150 pieces just for this map.
So of course this looks familiar. It's not by coincidence. One of the defining sort of areas of Forge World is this canyon here, this gulch, and it has been recreated to kind of be a blend of the Halo classic map Blood Gulch with a little bit of coagulation thrown in there as well.
So talking about some of the features I mentioned earlier, just taking two pieces and blending them together, that's all much more easy. We have this mode of physics where you can set something to be phased, and then objects pass right through each other and through the ground. It's painless. That'll take hours off of the work that our content creators in the community will be spending.
I remember you described the original Forge as sort of like creating a house out of a deck of cards. You kind of had to like balance things on top of each other and hope for the best.
Yeah,
but now
absolutely.
it's designed around the actual concept of building stuff how you like it.
Yeah, I mean, the community pushed the tool set even farther than what we intended it to be, and we definitely have been able to learn from that and make it a more full-featured part of what we're shipping in the game this time. But you're right, last time if you build a huge structure and move one block, the whole thing would fall apart. And honestly, just trying to get blocks to align to create straight pieces of wall could take hours. And we've done a lot now to give people more precise controls. In addition to phasing like Chad just did, you can actually just make it so an object is fixed, so you can just float it anywhere you want to in the air and it'll stay there forever.
So the real impressive thing about Forge World, we should probably mention this, is that as big as this map looks right here, it's practically a corner of the map.
Absolutely. So Chad's going to hop in the Falcons, one of our new vehicles we have in the game. You'll be able to play this throughout parts of the campaign as well as multiplayer. It's pretty awesome because you got a guy who's piloting, and then you can get two passengers on these gunner seats. So it's a pretty sweet little mobile death station, especially in multiplayer. On this map, tons of vehicles, Scorpions, tanks, the Falcon, and the armor abilities that Reach introduces. It's a lot of fun. But we're going to be able to go beyond the canyon for the first time and take you into this new space. And all this area that you're seeing here, this is all available to the player to build their own Forge maps in. So you'll be able to actually define a player volume. So if you wanted to build a map that was only on this island, and if players left the island, they might die, you could define that space. You also could build a map, though, that uses pretty much the entire expanse of Forge World if you desired. We have a game mode that one of our designers built called Grand Tour. It's a racetrack that basically uses the full extent of Forge World and takes players on a couple kilometer race course basically through all these different areas. But we have a couple different unique zone sets, right, that we've built sort of thematically?
So when we were building this map, we wanted to build a group of spaces that were each kind of distinct so that people could build different kinds of maps within them. So you already saw the canyon, and this down here is a massive island that you can build kind of Sidewinder or Avalanche style maps out of, or you can just take a section out of it and build a map there. We also have this large rock here that you can build maps on top of, and this actually we borrowed from geometry from a previous Halo level that some people might be able to recognize in order to build an area that has like a safe spot in the middle, but treachery, you can build a bunch of catwalks around it. Then over here we have a space that we call the quarry. The quarry is basically a simple symmetrical space with a cliff to one side, which makes it easy to build a symmetrical map that has a very clear landmark in it, an open side and a closed side. And then down here, we basically rebuilt the crypt from Sandbox as a simple box that we call the Coliseum. The Coliseum is just the perfect space for building pretty much whatever you want, symmetrical, asymmetrical. You can use as much of the space as you like. We built giant walls, so you can wall off sections of it if you want. And really, you don't have to stick with just these spaces. You can build up in the sky. In fact, the map I'll show you in a second here.
Let's take a look at some of the maps that you guys have actually made up.
Chad and the team have been able to go in and build a couple of unique maps that'll be included on the discs that were built from the ground up using the exact same tools that we're going to let the fans have access to. And that was one of the most valuable parts of building Forge 2.0 was using it every day, day in and day out. And if Chad had a problem doing something, then certainly a fan would too. So that was able to help shape the design experience. Yeah, why don't we pull up one of the example maps here?
The cage would be a good example.
A really good example. Yeah. So this is a map that one of our multiplayer design leads, Chris Carney, built from scratch using that sort of sheer rock cliff face that Chad just showed us a minute ago. It's a good example of how this new lock-in-place functionality works. So the whole map now is floating. And every one of these pieces has been assembled and placed carefully onto this map to build a really pretty interesting, it's a really awesome, fun map to play on. A little bit of a lockout kind of vibe going on there. Fully unique play space though, and this will be one of the maps that we include on the disc in September.
One of the great things about this map, Carney built it. Carney didn't do like a lot of intense Forge work in Halo 3, so for him this was pretty much a brand new experience, picking up Forge and seeing what he could do with it as a designer with a ton of experience, and he ended up building this fantastic Slayer map that we have been playing tons, and we've had VIP guests come in and fall in love with the map from day one. And it's a favorite. People will be able to find it on the disc and in matchmaking as soon as they have their copy.
Do you think we can take a look at one of those other maps that you
Yeah,
guys?
why don't you, let's go to the top of the big rock spire that you pointed out. You know, and just like the Firefight game types, our competitive multiplayer modes have a tremendous amount of customization also, just like we did in Halo 3. So you'll be able to tweak things like movement speed, damage, loadouts, so you can build your own map that's custom tailored for your own different game type. And if you're familiar with Griffball, it's kind of a community-created game. It's sort of like a hockey, soccer on hybrid, on steroids. That was a game type that was built using Forge and custom game variants, and has now become a really popular online game mode. So Pinnacle, I think you'll see, looks familiar. It was one of the, sort of just like we wanted to recreate the Blood Gulch coagulation map, we also wanted to be able to recreate another map that people enjoyed from the prior Halo games.
This is a remake of Ascension from Halo 2. And as you can see, the geometry I mentioned before was familiar. It's because we actually took it and rezzed it up from Halo 2. And then all the pieces were built for Forge and then added to the map. We actually took the geometry from the original map, tore it apart so that we could make the Forge pieces. And while they feel pretty customized, you can actually use these anywhere. So I could just grab this tower, tear it away, turn it around, implement it differently, change how it's built. It's nice and simple. And again, this is going to be on the disc when people pick it up. It'll be matchmaking. It's set up for pretty much every game type, so we'll be using it a lot in Slayer, definitely.
We're here in a multiplayer map. Is there any way we can check out some of the weapons, vehicles, or what have you that are in here that just give people a taste of multiplayer?
Sure. Whatever you can realistically show off in this space. You know, hologram is one of the newer armor abilities that we've recently been discussing. That'd probably be a cool thing to show off.
It's also worth pointing out that you can actually drop armor abilities as pickups in Forge. So you can set up a game type in custom games where people don't have armor abilities, and then set them on your map in Forge. So kind of make it something like power-ups, like the Overshield. So what I'm going to do really quick here is pick up Hologram. Hologram is a pretty straightforward ability where when you activate it, you create an image of yourself that's carrying the same weapon you are that runs to the destination or to the first wall it finds and then just runs in place. But when people try to shoot it, they see it disperses. So it's a nice way of deceiving players. It's a lot of fun when you're playing like a sniper's game and you're hiding behind a rock and you're cornered and you send the hologram running one way and then you run the other and they're shooting the hologram, kind of cursing at themselves when they realize it's not you.
Now, if I recall correctly, that armor ability, that wasn't in the multiplayer beta, right?
Nope, it was not. So the hologram is a new reveal, and then we also have the drop shield. You maybe want to show that off real quick.
Absolutely. So let me place a drop shield here.
Okay. Yeah, let's check out this one real quick and then...
So drop shield is very similar to Halo 3's bubble shield. When I activate the armor ability, I throw this handy shield, and you'll notice it glows a soothing blue. If I had been taking damage, then while standing inside the bubble, I would actually start to regenerate health. And the difference between this shield, the drop shield, and Halo 3's bubble shield is the timer's a bit different, and it'll actually take damage. So if players start shooting it, or if they EMP it with like a charged plasma bolt, they can actually disperse the shield sooner.
Cool. Well, it looks like you guys have just added a metric ton of options and customization features to Forge here, and we could probably talk all day long about new stuff in there.
We scratched the surface, and honestly, it's going to take some time, and I think it's going to keep getting better and better once our community gets their hands on this tool. Yeah. We'll be finding these maps. You can tag them now in-game on the website. It's going to be easy to find these things, and we'll be adding these things into matchmaking. And this is a great way for the fans to be able to shape the future of the online experience for Reach, and we really can't wait to see what they do in September.
All right, Brian, Chad, thanks for joining us. One last question. I'm sure most of our audience hopefully knows this already, but when is Reach going to be out in stores?
September 14th.
September 14th.
Yeah, right around the corner.
All right, guys, thanks a lot for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.